Hi cutie pies, welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna have a cozy sketching session. We're gonna work on this isometric picnic scene with little cat and little bunny. And Hannah will be joining us, giving us some tips along the process. Let's get started. First thing we gotta do is turn on the isometric guide so that we can work on this scene. As you can see, I first worked on a rough sketch and now we're gonna go into all the details and sketching every little object that we are going to be including in this picnic scene. First, we're gonna work on the ground so that we have a base for our picnic. The isometric guide is very useful when you are doing geometrical shapes such as cubes. It's very intuitive and you just have to follow along with the lines. For other objects that are not symmetrical though, it's a little bit more difficult. So it's, I would say, a lot of exploration and trial and error. Of course, this picnic scene has to be under Sakura trees because that's all we're doing these days. To draw the trees, I like to first do the branches so that you can see a little bit of them in between the flowers. And for the flowers, I like to do these little bushes, which will then be colored using 4 or 3 different shades of pink. And while we enjoy the sketching process, today I want to invite you all to join my Discord server. My Discord server is a perfect space for us to stay kawaii, to hang out, to share a lot of kawaii experiences. I also want to share lots of behind the scenes and I also want to interact with you so that you give me some feedback on the creative process. I'm gonna leave the link in the description so that you can come join us. Now let's jump into the objects on the picnic scene. For these objects we have the picnic basket, we have onigiri, we have chocolate cupcakes, a camera, orange juice, and a speaker. As we were saying before, these objects are a little bit more complicated and you have to do lots of trial and error. You will see that I struggled a little bit trying to get the basket with the right perspective. But after a lot of attempting and erasing and trying again and following the guidelines, I was actually able to come up with a very cute basket. Do let me know if you think I got the perspective right. When drawing different objects, do keep in mind which lines should go parallel to the floor and which ones should be perpendicular. That way you can just follow the lines from the guide and that would help you a lot with the positioning and perspective of your objects. Another thing that could be very useful is having objects next to you so that you can copy how they look from the perspective that you are trying to draw them. I really like isometric rooms. I find them very interesting and beautiful. I would really like to try different sceneries. For example, rooms. I know rooms are a very common thing that artists do. I would like to do things like lo-fi room, gaming room, a cafe, a market, a bakery, so many options. Let me know which ones you would like to see next. I would really like to go little by little creating some and also doing some seasonal ones. This would be a spring one. I would like to do more of a summer one. Maybe fall and winter would follow. Now let's jump into the characters. Characters are some of the figures that I find the most difficult because of the perspective, especially because it's more difficult to find a reference from them. You can easily imitate a cylinder, the camera, the basket with regular objects that you have at home, but being able to figure out the position of an animal in this case, I find it very complicated. So I might have cheated on this one. I actually sketched the two animals in advance, and here I'm just perfectioning a little bit more that sketch. Sketching these two characters from scratch took me around 40 minutes in total, as I was trying to figure out how to position the head and then how to make them sit down and then where to put the ears. I looked for a lot of references of cats and bunnies, like real cats and bunnies, not only drawings, to try to figure out how to draw it sitting down in an isometric perspective. Once I have a better understanding on how to draw characters in isometric perspective, I would really love to share with you guys, especially because it has been very hard for me to find that kind of information. So it will be with practice that I'm going to get there, and hopefully you will also like to learn more about that. In the meantime, do let me know what you think of these two little friends. How do you think I did in this one? As we've been doing so many Sakura drawings, I had to add one more, and this one is a Hanami Picnic scene. Of course, it had to be. This will be the last one that I'm gonna share. And of course, as a Hanami Picnic, it had to have onigiri. Am I right? At this point, the only thing we're missing is the picnic blanket. And of course, we cannot leave that one out. And here we have our sketch completed. These are all the objects we included in our scene. And if you made it this far, I'm going to have a little bonus for you. I'm going to show you how I choose the color palette. What I usually do to choose my color palette is do a new group of layers under the sketch. That way I sort of color roughly each object and I can see how they would look in the end product. This gives me the opportunity for a lot of experimentation. You will see that I did it a lot with the kitty. It gives me the opportunity to check if the colors do fit with the entire scene. And the best part is I get to change the colors as many times as I want in this stage. And then when I'm actually working on the line art and on the final coloring, I will not be hesitating and I will not be changing things which get more complicated at that point. As I mentioned at the very beginning, here are the 3 shades of pink that I'm going to use for the trees. This is just a rough sketch. It might get changed when I'm actually coloring the final version, but it does give me a good guideline on how to manage those trees. And the very last step is one more layer on top of all the coloring to choose the colors that I'm going to use for the line art of each object. And this is it, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another session. Do let me know in the comments what you think of this sketch and this rough color palette. Once I have this piece finished, I will share it in the community on Discord and also on Instagram, so I hope you will be there to see it. And I will see you guys the next time. Stay kawaii!